Olá, amigos do canal Bom Dia Geoeconomia. Este jornalista norte-americano traz à tona uma revelação que vai chocar o mundo. Os motivos que levaram à tarifação de 50% ao Brasil podem ser muito mais absurdos do que o que já foi declarado oficialmente. Quais segredos estão por trás desta medida? Quais efeitos a Casa Branca espera causar? Quais interesses pessoais podem estar atrelados a esta disputa? Essa revelação pode mudar os rumos da política e da economia no nosso país. Podemos estar entrando em uma nova era, onde o poder hegemônico dará lugar a uma nova forma de governar. Quais os desdobramentos destes recentes acontecimentos para a vida dos brasileiros? Deixe seu like se você se interessou por este assunto e se inscreva no nosso canal para acompanhar os próximos acontecimentos.
On its face, Brazil might seem like a really weird country for the US to have beef with. During Donald Trump's first term, they were pretty cozy. Look, there was an exchange of jerseys and everything. Trump even had Brazil's president over to Mar-a-Lago. That's him right there. And when it comes to trade, for almost 20 years, Brazil has been one of the relatively few countries in the world with whom the US has run a trade surplus. As in, every year, the US sells to Brazil billions of dollars more in goods than it buys, which is exactly the way Trump likes his trading relationships.
Whatever they charge us, we're charging them. Nobody can complain about that.
So why, when the US president threatened country after country this week with these templated cut and paste tariff letters, many of which use the exact same language? It is a great honor for me to send you this letter. Our relationship has been, unfortunately, far from reciprocal. Please understand that these tariffs are necessary. Why does Trump seem to reserve a special place in hell just for Brazil, throwing around language like international disgrace, talking about witch hunts that should end immediately in capital letters, insidious attacks, secret and unlawful censorship orders, and to top it all off, a brand new 50% tariff, 50%, on all Brazilian goods shipped to the United States? Well, turns out, the first reason is personal, and the second reason might be even more personal than the first. Let me explain. The so-called witch hunt that has triggered Trump's latest series of attacks against Brazil's current president is the criminal investigation set to go to trial this year into Brazil's former president, Jair Bolsonaro, whom Trump respected greatly. And yes, it's the same guy in the jersey swap and at dinner, the man who came to be known as the Trump of the tropics.
It implies similarity in style and substance between both. In substance, in terms of their populist and nationalistic rhetoric, their far-right ideology, their contempt for democratic norms.
Quase todas as fake news que se voltaram contra mim partiram da Folha de São Paulo.
Jair Bolsonaro narrowly lost Brazil's most recent election to left-leaning Lula da Silva. And the following year, he was actually barred from running for office again until 2030 because he followed in Trump's footsteps a little more directly.
The party behind former President Jair Bolsonaro challenging the election results after losing a close but definite election to President-elect Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva.
The current popular movements are the result of indignation and feelings of injustice at how the electoral process took place.
Bolsonaro never did accept that 2022 election loss, and neither did many of his supporters. On January 8th, just a few days after the inauguration of Bolsonaro's opponent, thousands stormed and smashed their way into Congress, Brazil's presidential palace, its Supreme Court, blocking highways, attacking police, fueled by repeated claims of electoral fraud. Bolsonaro, who was in Florida at the time, has denied inciting the riots. But Brazil's top electoral court ruled that he had abused his power in trying to overturn the election result, while casting unfounded doubts on the country's electronic voting system. Again, sound familiar?
This election was rigged, and the Supreme Court and other courts didn't want to do anything about it.
The events between January 6th and January 3rd are similar, oddly parallel. It's not really a coincidence. Imagine Bolsonaro looked at Trump and saw in him someone that's very akin to what he wanted to do. They came from this idea of grievance, of being blocked out by an all-controlling elite, of corruption, sowing distrust in institutions, trying to retake control over some sort of very vague, non-proven conspiracy that they've been locked out of power. But more importantly, what it was doing was capturing the sense of public frustration. That is the coalition that both Trump and Bolsonaro have built, of in some cases business leaders, but also cases of people who feel that simply their voices have not been heard. So they both, in that sense, captured this sense of anger and effectively channeled it against democratic institutions.
So when Donald Trump openly rails against the way Bolsonaro had been treated, defending but also identifying with him, echoing some of the same claims he has made about himself, that he is not guilty of anything except having fought for the people, that this is nothing more or less than an attack on a political opponent, something I know much about. It happened to me, times 10. And when he makes it explicitly clear that this forms part of the basis for the punishment about to be brought down. Starting on August 1st, 2025, we will charge Brazil a tariff of 50% on any and all Brazilian products sent into the United States. Trump is making absolutely clear his own personal scores will decide how the United States economy is wielded as a weapon.
It's very obvious that this is not about trade.
It seems that Trump is using trade as a political weapon, and it signals that political loyalty and personal relationship matter as much, if not more, than economic logic for Trump's foreign policy.
But it might get even more personal than that, and I'll show you how. Trump Media is an incorporated company majority owned by Donald Trump. He created it shortly after he was banned from Twitter in 2021. And Truth Social was born from that, the crown jewel of Trump Media, where Trump himself will post thoughts, threats, homages to himself, sometimes dozens of times a day. This past February, Trump Media sued a man by the name of Alexandre de Moraes. He's a Brazilian Supreme Court justice whose legal decisions, according to the lawsuit, attempted to illegally censor American companies, in particular by banning accounts tied to prominent supporters of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro. This crackdown, the lawsuit alleges, also targeted critics of the current Brazilian president. Basically, Trump Media didn't want Brazilian justices making rules in the American social media ecosystem. But there's another layer to this, because this lawsuit was filed just hours after Bolsonaro was charged in Brazil for trying to defy the country's election result, and while Justice de Moraes happened to also be presiding over a series of other charges against Bolsonaro, including allegations he falsified a vaccination card and embezzled jewelry. I'll let you read for yourself how the New York Times characterized the timing of Trump's legal attack. The lawsuit appeared to represent an astonishing effort by Mr. Trump to pressure a foreign judge as he weighed the fate of a fellow right-wing leader who, like him, was indicted on charges that he tried to overturn his election loss.
They both now share this common grievance of feeling like they've been victims of witch hunt. So it's more than a witch hunt, but he sees a kindred spirit in Bolsonaro, and they share this sense of grievance and a sense of I confess, a certain messianic approach to politics, which is often the case with populist leaders of the left and the right.
This is just a small window into Trump's legal battle with Brazil. But his newest threat of 50% tariffs on Brazilian goods, that represents a much more public-facing fight.
The tariffs could be hugely damaging to Brazil. The United States are Brazil's second most important trading partner.
There may very well be other reasons Trump is singling out Brazil now. It's worth pointing out, for example, Brazil is the B in BRICS. That's a trade partnership that actually includes 10 rapidly growing economies to which, maybe for a few reasons, the US does not belong.
What they created is not an international organization, but a platform for cooperation and exchange between the governments.
Those countries met recently in Brazil for their annual summit, avoiding mentioning the United States by name in a joint resolution, but slamming all the same indiscriminate rising of tariffs and voicing serious concerns about the rise of unilateral tariff and non-tariff measures. That's as close to a shot at Trump as anyone would dare to take, to which Trump would reply on Truth Social, any country aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of BRICS will be charged an additional 10% tariff. And so, Trump's targeting of Brazil would now appear to go far beyond conventional trade economics.
These are not issues of economic statecraft. These are issues of trying to use an instrument of taxation to block trade for his own personal petty disagreements. And I don't think we've seen the end of this. I think we'll see this continue on.
But also, this isn't really new, is it? Whether it's fentanyl, border security, immigration, or defense spending, Trump has never really been shy about admitting that tariffs are about so much more than just trade. It's using America's greatest strength, its economy, as leverage. Brazil is just the latest target, of which Trump appears to have many.
Obrigado por assistir até aqui. Se você gostou deste vídeo, deixe seu like, se inscreva no nosso canal e deixe um comentário sobre o que você pensa sobre este assunto.